Alright guys, today I have a really exciting video for you guys. I finally got my hands on the Nintendo Switch OLED model. I'm a really big fan of the Nintendo Switch on this channel. I do some reviews on the games that come out on the Switch sometimes as well. And I had to review this thing because I wanted to see for myself if this was actually worth the bump in price of the original. If OLED made as big of a deal as people were claiming it to be. If the screen is actually worth the size increase that they stretched it out and made it a 7-inch screen. Is that noticeable? And is there really an improvement with the speakers that people are talking about? So I wanted to look at all that myself and give you guys an overview on how good the screen looks and all of that other stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming tech is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so here are the two switches. Of course, the OLED being on the left, and then the regular Switch being on the right. The right one is the Animal Crossing Switch, for those of you guys who want to know. So let's start off by talking about some of the differences that are apparent before we get into the actual screen quality that are physically different on the Switch. So you can tell right off the bat, something that caught me off guard. We all knew that they were going to be bigger than the screen was going to be bigger on this one by a little bit than the original. But I didn't anticipate that as soon as I grabbed it, I would immediately notice. Like, I thought I would have to put them side by side, being that it's such a small, incremental change into the size based on the specs, that I thought I was going to have to look at them side by side to realize how much bigger it is. But as you guys are seeing this video, it's very obvious which one of these screens is bigger. You can see how much less borders there are over here on the right. The physical footprint of it is basically the same. It's like an inch, like a very small centimeter bigger on edge to edge when you go up to the Joy-Con. But it's basically the same exact real estate, and you can see how much more black space there is around the edges. Especially over here on these two sides, and then you can tell how much smaller they are over here, and it's just a much bigger screen, guys. I mean, if I put them here side by side like this, and you can see the top one on top of the other, you can see how much bigger that looks like, and just how big of a difference it actually makes. I actually think that it does make a huge difference, and I didn't think it would. But obviously, who wouldn't want a bigger screen on a handheld? And this is a much more bigger improvement on the screen size than I thought, especially when I was reading people's reviews that got their hands on this early, because I only got my hands on this yesterday. And a lot of people were just talking about the screen, but not so much the screen size. And I actually think the screen size is a pretty cool benefit that is going to be easily apparent to anybody who picks it up over their old Switch immediately. Now, moving along from the actual screen size, if we turn these around, you guys remember that the old Switch, as you can see here, had a very flimsy, stand as you're looking at here. That was the stand on the original Switch. It was very flimsy. It kind of just stood like that, and it always felt like it was going to tip over at any moment. Like, even though it never did, and this worked pretty well, not much complaining, but it was definitely a flimsy stand. But now, here on the new one, you can see that it's a full-on stand here. So it's much more secure. It holds it much better. You can actually put it in different positions and stuff. So I could take this one and kind of fold it down like this, and it goes all the way down like that. So if you want to put it in that angle, you can. You can't do that with the original Switch. So this stand is obviously much better than the original one was. There is no comparison. It's definitely a much better system when it comes to that. The next thing we're going to talk about here is, of course, the screen quality. The screen quality being OLED versus the regular one. Is it as big of a deal as people are making it out to be, or some people are making it out to be? And I'm here to tell you that it's actually a very noticeable difference when you pick it up, especially if you came from the original Switch. Obviously, if this was your first Switch and you look at it, you're going to say the screen looks awesome, but you're not going to, have the same impact of all of us who have been playing on this Switch, the whole entire time. But now, especially somebody who has one to compare it to, which we're going to do here in a second, just look here at the, first of all, right here on the main menu, if you click on Mario Kart, for example, and what's much more apparent is this black level. Look at that. That black is completely black on the loading screen, and this is the obvious gray that we're used to. This is black, but obviously the gray tint that comes with LCD technology. That black level should easily be noticeable to everyone watching this video on how apparent that is. And just look at how much better the screen size looks. I mean, when you're putting these side by side like this, you want that full screen size, and you can tell how much bigger the screen size is at this point, and how much more it adds to the games when you're playing it, and the screen is that much bigger. But I'm just really impressed with the actual quality there of, seeing how much better the actual vibrancy is on the colors. I didn't expect to notice it as easily as I did. But again, I don't know how apparent it's coming across in the video here, but this is a much more vibrant color popping screen than the one on the right. And I don't know how easily that's coming across here, but it definitely comes across really easily when you're playing them side by side and when you're looking at it. Like, the screen is, the OLED is awesome. And OLED should be a standard for any handheld going forward, just like the Vita was that set this apart from back in the day. That's how it should have been from the start. So let's go ahead and just start a race here real quick. Just to give you guys an idea. Alright, so they're both starting a race, and again, I don't know how easy it is to tell, but this screen over here on the left is so much more vibrant and so much more colorful. Look at this Mario over here on the actual corner there, how much better that looks. This one looks a lot more dull, not as vibrant, not as colorful as this one. Like, this pops red off the screen. Like, his hat and his Mario Kart there is popping off the screen right now, and this one is just a dull thing. And to be fair, when I say dull and stuff, I never thought this screen was bad. When we all had the Switch, we didn't go and be like, this screen's terrible. The screen was always good. It's just that when you compare it to something like OLED in front of you like this, it's very apparent that OLED is clearly the winner here. And if we scroll down the card a little bit, so we can at least see a little bit of a different angle of the actual track and stuff. Now coming over here at the next stop here, as we're looking at it right here, this Mario Kart here in the background, the Mario Kart Stadium sign that's sitting back there in the corner, is like a neon vibrancy on the screen right now. And over here, it just looks like a dull, like, pink purplish thing in the background. But over here, like, that part of the track just pops off the screen that didn't pop off before. Like, you really notice that Mario Kart Stadium in the background and those fireworks going off in the corner way more than you would have over here, just because of how much more vibrant that neon sign is kind of pulling out. So let's go ahead and switch to Splatoon here, and let's take a look at how that game is, because that game is colorful as well. And again, just showing these black levels again, just look at how much of a clear difference that was when loading Splatoon on how much more black this area is. And that may not be a big deal when it comes to loading screens, but just imagine games that have a lot more black when you're playing the games, and then colors are popping in from the black background, and how much more black those levels are going to look compared to the original Switch here. Now here we are here, of course, in the actual main hub area. And just look at this hub area right now. Look at all the neon that you can see there when you look up. And just look up here and look at how much different that, how much better that actually looks here. Look how much that pops over here on the corner compared to this one over here. It just looks that much better. I mean, this looks completely darkened out, like you're in a dark alley or something. And look at how much more vibrant and colorful this one is here on the left. I mean, it's extremely noticeable when you're looking at games that are very colorful, especially games like, you know, Splatoon that we showed now, and Mario Kart before. The more colorful the games, the more apparent the screen's going to look on how good it looks. Obviously, it's going to look good on every game, but you'll really notice the difference when the games are really colorful like this. I mean, this is very apparent on how much nicer this looks over here in the corner compared to this the pink and greens over here. I mean, look at this arrow over here in green. They're both green, but this one is a lot more vibrant green popping off the screen than this one ever could be. So switching on over to another game here that's really, really good that I've done a review on this channel is Cruise and Blast. And look at, again, the black levels there, how much grayer the one on the right is, and how the grays are not as black as you want them to be, and then how crystal black the other one is there on the left as you're going through the menus here. So here we are starting a race here. Even just here on the main menu, this red over here at the bottom, like just for the main menu there, it still pops off the screen compared to the one over there. Same thing on this screen here, the Singapore sign there, everything's just popping off the screen more. And again, in a game that's really, like, has a lot of neon and stuff, that's really apparent here. And you can see how much more vibrant this red over here on the car is compared to this one over here. That just doesn't look as good. I mean, if we drive a little bit here, you can see how good those colors look and how good everything looks here. We'll do a little jump from here. And just look at how good all of this looks. I mean, look at that neon color from the Ferris wheel and the lightning that's hitting there. If we stop right here, and then we take the other one, kind of do the exact same thing here. You can tell it's just not as colorful, not as, you know, the colors aren't popping off the screen as much as the other one is on the car or anything surrounding it. I mean, look at the Ferris wheel there in the background. Now that we get a little closer here, it just doesn't pop off the screen as much as the one on the left is doing. It's just a very apparent difference that I don't know how apparent it comes across in these videos, but I can tell you guys that it's very apparent. If you have a Switch next to each other side by side, or you've used the Switch for a while, you're going to immediately notice the improvement. The people who have never had a Switch in their hands before have no reason to get the originals anymore. Get the OLED, it's well worth the $50 extra. You just may not be as excited because you won't know the difference between the original and this one. But as somebody who's had that from the original, like, this is a marked improvement. And another thing that's a really interesting thing that I noticed as well, I noticed a lot of people were talking about the sound, that they thought the sound sounded a little louder. And at first I was like, it didn't sound any louder because I was racing in this game and I put the sounds loud in the menu where it was doing the cruising soundtrack, and I didn't hear it much louder. I heard it a little bit better because it's coming from the front more than the speakers were in the back. So I did hear that difference, but I didn't hear it any louder. But what is interesting is that it must have either it's a little louder or maybe it just has a little bit more bass. Because when you play a game like this, if I put this all the way down right now, I'm going to put this all the way down. I'm going to raise this one all the way up. Now, when you hit the accelerate button, it does like a boost, right? Alright, so you hear how the car takes off? That sound? The revving? So listen to that revving. Do it one more time. Alright, so there's that revving. And now, let's lower this one. And now, let's rev with this one over here. And it's very apparent that there's better bass or better bass in the speakers or something, because listen to this. So it's a very apparent difference. Especially, like I said, hopefully it's coming across, but that revving just sounds louder on the Switch. It sounds more pronounced and more like there's some actual bass in these speakers. So it's really interesting how that actually works, and it actually is either a little. It's either sounds better or there's more bass to the speakers. Either way, it's definitely noticeable in different games. I mean, it's not louder where you're immediately gonna plug it in. You're gonna be like, oh, this is definitely much louder. Like, that's not what's happening. I had to look for this, so it's not as big of a deal as the other features we talked about beforehand. But when it comes to bass and games that are using that, like the revving in this game, it's definitely noticeable when you put them side by side that this one is clearly has better bass and a little louder. But again, not something that you're going to notice if you're not comparing the Switches side by side. You're just going to think the sound sounds pretty much the same, with maybe higher bass if you're detailed into realizing that when you play these games. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that video on the Nintendo Switch comparison between the Animal Crossing Switch, the original, and the OLED model. It's very obvious which one I clearly like. The OLED model is now my main Switch, so I transferred everything over from my Animal Crossing Switch and put it on this Switch. This is now going to become my wife's Switch, and she's going to use that. And we have a lot of Switches in this house anyway. We actually have 4 now because you guys know I'm a really big fan of local multiplayer, and having 4 Switches in the house to be able to do local wireless. And stay tuned because I'll be doing a video on local wireless in the coming weeks once I get a bunch of games that I can test with that and show you guys exactly how cool that stuff is. But either way, now this is my primary Switch, and I'm really excited about it because it is a marked improvement. Granted, do I think everybody who has the original Switch is going to appreciate these? No. But as people like me who are heavily playing handheld all the time, or if you're not heavily into handheld all the time, but you just like tech in general like me, and you like these kind of improvements and you know what you're getting yourself into, either sell your original Switch and make up most of the money, even though I didn't do that, and then buy this model, and then it's definitely worth it, or just outweigh what you were actually looking for here. But for me, the increase in the screen size is a lot bigger than I thought it would be. The OLED is a much bigger difference, especially someone who's been playing the Switch since it first released. Every game looks more vibrant. Every game is noticeable on how much better the screen is. The blacks are true blacks. The colors pop off the screen, as I tried to show you guys there in the video. Definitely an improvement there. Of course, we didn't talk about it, but there is 64 gigabytes on this Switch, as opposed to the original that only has 32. Not really a big deal for it because a lot of us already have SD cards, but there is that as well. The improved kickstand is also nice, especially the way that it goes down, and you can put it at different angles like I showed you guys, which is going to be great for those of us who bring this on planes and kind of share the experience with someone else next to you and stuff like that, that you can rotate the actual kickstand and stuff. So that's definitely an improvement as well. So I'm really happy with it. The OLED is definitely a game changer for the Switch. It makes every game look that much better. Even though the graphics on these things are the exact same graphics chips on each, it makes it look like these games look better just because of how much better the screen actually looks. So I think it's worth it for those of us who play Switch primarily in handheld, especially if you can sell your old one and make up most of that money by selling your old one and getting the new one. And I think it's definitely worth it for us who like this kind of stuff, like techies like us, who love, those improvements and those things out there. So you just got to outweigh if it's worth it for you. But for me, it was easily worth it as someone who plays this thing in handheld all the time. So if you guys have any questions about what you guys saw in today's video, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Until next time.